Azure plays there with its DevOps service. So with that said, in this particular session, we'll be talking about in general what DevOps is, uh, all the hows and whys of DevOps, what are the benefits of getting into DevOps, then what Azure brings to the table, the benefits of using Azure DevOps and different components of DevOps, which will be followed by the one demo, which Disha will be uh, demonstrating to all the participants. And then finally, we'll have a few minutes for question and answers. But in the meanwhile, also, if you have any queries, any questions, please feel free to put your queries on the chat window, and we'll try to get back to you with the responses. So with that said, let's start and take a look into what Azure DevOps has to offer. Great. So the whole story starts from what exactly is DevOps and why do we need it. So DevOps, if you look at the industry practices, it is essentially a set of practices intended to reduce the time between committing a change to a system and change being placed into normal production. I mean, here when we are saying production, we are actually referring to some environment where we can deploy a release. So it could be a production environment, it could be a staging environment, could be a QA environment. But the whole idea is that while ensuring the high quality of our application, of our code, we need to speed up the process, right from writing the code, testing it, building it, and deploying that build to an appropriate environment. So DevOps in that sense is kind of a combination of the development, operations, activity. It is a collaboration of the two, and it's a union of the processes, people, and working product that enable continuous integration and continuous delivery of value to our end users. So what you will find is that DevOps is going to accelerate the process to deliver applications and software services at a very high speed, a high velocity, so that the organizations can learn and adopt the market at its earliest. So today we see what we see around us, a very fast moving, a very fast paced business environment. So there is a cutthroat competition, and different businesses, they are competing with each other, they are coming up with new features so as to benefit their end users. And the another aspect is that almost every business today is IT dependent in one way or the other. So whether you have I mean, even if you are not an IT company, still you may end up with an IT department, because to support your applications, to support your business. So that way, every business needs to kind of in a very fast movement, in a fast paced way, they need to come up with the solutions, IT solutions, that they can provide to their end users so as to gain the maximum market space, right? So that is why DevOps is also gaining popularity among all the IT departments or IT organizations. So one of the benefits is that it minimizes the risk factor by continuously delivering and getting end users and stakeholders feedback at the very early stages. So as you can see on this particular slide, that on the one hand, we have the development team, the developers, and on the other side we have the operations team, the people who take care of your servers, the configurations, the different environments, and so on. Now, usually we'll find that traditionally, what were the challenges? So of course the teams were same. We had IT teams earlier also in the past. We had development team earlier also in the past, but there was kind of I would say kind of a communication gap and a very strict ownership of the artifacts or the activities from team's perspective. So there was not one team which was responsible for the project or responsible for the application, but there were multiple different smaller teams which were responsible for their own tasks. although that was a complete project that was supposed to be delivered. But that whole project or the whole application end to end, right from writing the code till the time you are going to deploy it on the servers and on the environment, and then the maintenance part. So there were different teams which would say that, okay, we are not responsible for X activity, we are not responsible for Y activity. So that was a very big challenge. So if you try to kind of consolidate and classify those challenges, so you will find that, uh, give and take, these were the major challenges, like manual deployments. So without any DevOps tooling available, this is what the organization would be doing. Team collaboration, and that is what we are emphasizing so much right now. So different teams would be accountable for their own set of activities. Then limited transparency. You will not know that, okay, what exactly is being done, who is making what kind of changes, what are the, you need to know about the different environments and so on. And that lead to inconsistent environments. So let's say the development team is working on maybe a Windows system, and they are developing their code on the Windows system, which has its own kind of configurations and all that stuff. Maybe they are working on a dev database. Now, when this whole application is ready, it needs to be moved to the QA, from QA, maybe staging to production. So moving to the different environments. So there was always a risk, or always some kind of exposure to the risk, where your configuration settings for your environment may get changed, and your code kind of may break because of those environmental changes. So that again was a big challenge in the past. Then the manual testing that would go. So of course today we are living in a world where we kind of a lot of organizations and teams are following test driven development approach. But in past, that was not the scenario. People would not even write tests, what we are calling as unit tests. So we are specifically talking of developers, that they will not even write unit tests for their applications. It was not it, it was kind of considered an overhead, and kind of a wasteful exercise by some teams and some organizations. But today, if you talk of any well built application, one of the best practices that the teams have to follow is write appropriate unit test cases for their applications, for their piece of code that they are writing, so that it can be automatically tested by certain build tools, say for example Jenkins. So which can go and uh, while you are, as soon as you commit the code, they'll go ahead and they'll uh, detect the test cases written by you, and they are going to automatically run them. And then the complexity and the security part was of course there, because with different environments out there, the level of complexity to make sure that your code runs in all those environments was a bit complex to maintain. And of course there were security issues, because there were chances of certain credentials getting exposed, or kind of getting carry forward to another environment. So these were the majorly some challenges which were there in traditional approach or non-DevOps kind of approach. So why DevOps? It helps you to break down the silos in context of teams. So now everybody is one team. So be it developer, be it operations people, be it database person, everybody is working as one team, and people know that, okay, this is what the other team is doing. And sometimes even the responsibilities or the accountabilities will overlap. So now that's the notion. Speed. Now when we are talking of speed here, we are basically referring to uh, the individual speeds of every team. So for example, the coders will be able to write and develop their code faster than before. The IT people or the operations people will be should be able to set up the required infrastructure, the required security permissions and all that stuff much faster as compared to the past. Testers should be able to test, perform specific testings. There is a whole universe out there for testing. So those kind of tests should be performed in greater speeds. using lesser time. So individual teams can perform their own tasks in a increased speed. Then we talk of rapid delivery. So this means overall, right from the person, right from the planning. So when you kind of break down the user stories or the requirements, and the developers start coding those requirements right from their phase to the phase to the time when you are going to deliver the working piece of code, the working application. So this which means releasing your application in some environment, could be production, staging, test, QA, whatever. So that total time, release time, should be reduced, which means you should result into a rapid delivery. So that is what DevOps supports. And again, the other aspects like the reliability, team collaboration, security, and risk management. It provides you better risk management because with the DevOps practices and toolings, you can detect any early bugs in your code, some early errors in your code, and fix them. So which means it is going to reduce your risk at a later stage or when the application is deployed. Great. So how does DevOps works? Now this is a generic scenario, nothing related to Azure as such, but this is important to understand because this is going to give you an understanding that what Azure brings to the table to support this DevOps. So again, here you can see in this diagram that developers are writing their code. They are committing their code to the source control, some source control repository, could be GitHub, could be Bitbucket, anything. And as soon as they are committing their code, there is a trigger activated, which allows your code to be kind of submitted to some continuous integration tool, say for example Jenkins, which is going to do an automated testing on your code, unit testing specifically, and then if everything goes fine, it is going to build it successfully, which means when we say build, maybe compile it to some kind of executable artifact, and that will be then passed on to the release management softwares. And this is where the ops team will come into the picture, and they'll kind of set up that environment and make sure that the release environment variables or the release configuration are set up in place so that the application can utilize it. And this release can actually be on different environments, as you can see on the slide, the dev, QA, staging, and maybe then production. So once you get a review or an approval, it is deployed to the production. So this is the whole process. Now, when we are specifically talking of DevOps, so what is the difference between a DevOps and a non-DevOps environment? So again, this whole life cycle is going to be there for a non-DevOps environment also. The difference is the practices and the tooling, the mindset. So with DevOps in picture, you will be requiring certain tools, certain services which are going to automate things for you. And if you try to compare it with what you see on the slide right now is a typical 5 stages or 5 phases of developing your application, from developing your application till deploying your applications and then monitoring it. So this is typical scenario, a life cycle for any application that we develop. We start from the code, take it to the build. Once the build is successfully prepared, it goes for the testing, which requires some testing tools, test plans, and all that stuff. Then if everything is successful, goes to the deployment phase where it is deployed to appropriate environment. And then again, once everything is fine, we take it and move it to the production environment. We deploy it to production environment, and where continuous monitoring is taken care of so as to ensure that your application is running with the best of the performance and as per the expectations. Right, so in that context, you can see that it's a continuous process here. So start from planning, code, build, test, release, deploy, operate, and monitor. So you see there is an overlapping also. So right from, when you start planning, so when it comes to the release, so there is a kind of overlap. So which means at the time of release, both the dev team and the ops team, they both are equally accountable and responsible and owner of this particular activity. So where does Azure DevOps come into the picture and how does it help? So now if we talk of Azure DevOps with this basic understanding of how or what DevOps is, what are the challenges it helps us to overcome, and what are the different phases that the DevOps is going to cover. So now if we talk of Azure DevOps, which is a modern DevOps tool of planning, developing, testing, and deploying the modern applications with optimized release cycle for quality delivery of applications. So this is how you can define Azure DevOps. So essentially, if you once we move further, we'll find out that the Azure DevOps provides developer services for support teams to plan work, collaborate on code development, then build them and deploy the successful build as build application. Sorry, deploying the applications. So Azure DevOps is going to support both a culture and a set of processes that are going to bring developers and project managers and other contributors together to complete the software development. Now, this allows organizations to create and improve products at a faster pace than they can with any traditional software development approaches. Again, your Azure DevOps can include the Git repositories as source code, the build and release management tools, and again can work planning and tracking tools, the work planning and tracking tools. It can work, it provides you that, the testing tools, and provide support for other services like, for example, if you want to integrate Slack, Trello, and other Azure services. So all that is possible with the help of Azure tools. So again, when we talk of the Azure DevOps, so there are two flavors to it. One is the Azure DevOps services or the Azure DevOps server. So essentially, if you want to go for the public, more secure kind of way, you can go ahead and use Azure DevOps services. But if you want to have some kind of on-prem DevOps implemented, you can go ahead and make use of Azure DevOps server. So these are the two flavors that you can use for your Azure DevOps, for using Azure DevOps. Now, if we talk of the components of Azure DevOps, so now let's take a look at what actually Azure DevOps components are there, which we can utilize for our benefit. So we have Azure boards, Azure Repose, Azure Pipelines, Azure Test Plans, and Azure Artifacts. So these are the 5 major components. So essentially, your DevOps provides integrated features that you can access through your web browser or IDE client. And again, you can use one or more of these standalone services. So if you want to use them in a combined manner, you can use that. If you want to use them individually, you can use that. So either integrated or standalone, it's your choice. So if I talk of first the Azure artifacts, which you see on the rightmost part, it allows the teams to share packages such as Maven, NPM, NuGet, and other such dependency management systems from public and private sources and integrate package sharing into your pipelines. Then for the Azure test plans, which you see second from the right, they provide this particular service provides component provides several tools so that you can test your applications, including manual and exploratory testing and continuous testing. So this is what the Azure test plans is going to provide. Azure boards, which you see on the rightmost part on this slide, the Azure boards is going to deliver a suite of agile tools to support planning and tracking work. Any code defects, and any issues using Kanban and Scrum methods, right? So essentially your Azure boards will be more of a planning tool. So maybe some of you might have used Jira or this TFS or some other tools like that for your project management, agile project management. So that similar functionality you can expect from Azure boards also. Then moving further, you have Azure Repos. So this is similar to Git Repo. So it provides, Azure Repos provides Git repositories or Team Foundation version control, which is your TFVC, for source control of your code. So you can go ahead and you can kind of create the repositories in your GitHub and link it with this Amazon Azure Repos. So this is what is going to help you to share your code among your various coders in the team. Right, then comes the Azure Pipelines, which is the centermost image or the topic on this slide. So Azure Pipelines provides build and release services to support continuous integration and delivery of your applications. Now, to understand these components more specifically, let's take a look at this particular slide where you will find that which component fits into which activity during a lifecycle development. Great. So your Azure repos are going to work, will be useful when you are developing the code, when you are writing the code. So essentially, just like when multiple coders in our development team, they are working on the same piece of code, same set of artifacts, source codes, and then they are integrating it with the help of maybe GitHub, maybe SVN, CVS, or any such source code management system. So similar thing you are going to achieve with Azure Repos. Then once you have committed your code, the Azure Repos can raise a trigger to start the build process and kind of invoke the Azure pipelines. So Azure Pipelines is going to take care of your deployment process, right from build to deployment. So Azure Pipelines is going to ensure that the automated tests which are there, they get executed and they get successfully passed. Only if they are successfully passed, and maybe various other settings that you might have done with respect to the code integrity, the code stability, and all that stuff. So that part will also be checked. If everything is successful, a build will be created and can be integrated with certain testing tools if you want to, or maybe provide you with the manual or exploratory testing also. And once that phase is cleared, it is going to kind of move it to the deployment phase, where your tested software, well-tested software, will be released for the deployment to various environments. So you can maybe choose for a QA environment, for a staging environment, or for a production environment. And finally, once it is in production, then maintenance part will be taken care by the teams anyways. Now, other than these three components which you see mapped to different stages, if I talk of Azure artifacts here, so here Azure artifacts is going to again work mostly at the coding level, the coding stage. Why? Because this is where when you are coding your piece of software, your application, you will need certain dependencies in your code. So maybe, for example, say if you are building a Java-based application, you're using a Java technology stack, maybe you need Hibernate or some kind of JDBC drivers to connect to the databases, or you might need maybe, say for example, some JSON mapping classes and objects. So all those things you can actually, those libraries you can maintain in Azure artifacts rather than going to the public repositories, say for example Maven Central. Instead of doing that, you can pick it up from Azure artifacts. You can put it in Azure artifacts and you can pick it up from Azure artifacts if required. Similarly with your NuGet packages or maybe some other DLL files, which could be in-house DLL files, used for your maybe some security purpose or some centralized services. So all those things can be kept in your Azure artifacts and can be picked up from there. Similarly, on the right hand side, when you see Azure board, so this can kind of keep a tracking, a planning for overall all the activities that are taking place. So as I mentioned previously, Azure boards is more of a planning tool. So with successfully moving forward with every activity, with every task, you can go ahead and make those activities get reflected on your Azure board. Right, so these are the basic components. Now again, let's take a look at these components individually. So your Azure boards, it helps to plan. So this is how you start a project, right? This is how you start with any product. So the first thing that you do is the planning part. So Azure boards helps to plan, track, and discuss work across the team. So this is a very good tool for kind of integrating the teams. Now that I'm saying teams, it could be your development team, it could be your operations team. Again, within the operations team could be certain people who are dedicatedly working as system administrators, could be database administrators, security experts, and so on. So, but boards, the Azure boards can give you a transparency to the whole team without kind of any formal reporting process, so as to say. And again, this boards is a powerful agile tool for managing your Kanban boards, reporting and maintaining any product backlogs. Now here we are strictly talking the agile development strategies. So Kanban is one of the methodologies for agile. Scrum is another one which is also supported. And again, Azure boards have different components like work items, backlogs, boards, queries, sprints, details. So most of these components you will find very easily. You will be able to relate them very easily with the agile terminology and specifically speaking Scrum and Kanban. So this is what Azure boards can provide you. So again, you can manage user authentication and authorization also, your team, project, and organization level settings also. And the Azure board can help you write query to retrieve any specific work items from the system. Now, what are the work items here? It could be anything like your bug, your epic, issue, task, feature. So whatever, I mean, the terms are there in your agile methodologies. Great. Again, let's talk of Azure artifacts quickly. So Azure artifact service, it manages the dependencies used in source code, as I mentioned previously, and Azure artifacts can host and share package like your npm packages, NuGet, Maven, and so on. So these feeds from public and private sources. Again, these artifacts simplify the job building process. How? Because with the artifacts, any organization can actually centrally keep the tested, well-tested, verified packages that can be used organization-wide. So instead of every different team, now let's talk of maybe a big organization, even a small organization which has maybe 3 to 4 different teams working on different projects, different applications. So every team or every developer may kind of be tempted to utilize some fancy library in their project. So as a developer, let's say I know about some latest library which is very good for charting. Say for example, I want to create charts. But as an individual developer, I have not thoroughly studied that particular library or that dependency. I don't know exactly what could be the downsides or what could be the side effects of that particular library. So what usually organizations do is they go ahead, you as a developer can raise a request that, okay, I want to use this particular charting library. There would be a dedicated team in the organizations which will kind of refer to that particular library used in some project, will try to investigate it, analyze it. Are there any potential bugs there, are there any potential security issues there, and so on, whether it is absolutely safe to use it or not, whether it has potential to kind of break your existing code, whether it is compatible with other dependencies that you might be using in the project, or the organization uses centrally. So all these things are taken care by your organization's dedicated teams. Once they identify, once they are satisfied with all the aspects, they can go ahead and keep that particular library in this artifact component. And any project now in the organization can go ahead and pick up that library very safely. They can include it in their project from the artifacts. So that is the purpose and benefit of using Azure artifacts. So these stored artifacts are very easy to integrate with the Azure pipelines. So that is how they are beneficial from Azure's perspective. And then Azure artifacts are managed, packaged, hosted on cloud, and indexed. So these are certain benefits. Of course, you can go ahead and you can create your own artifact library, every organization. But if you as a team, as an organization, you are planning to harness the benefits of Azure cloud, then you will find that Azure artifacts very easily integrates with other services, like specifically speaking the pipeline, and provides you other inherent benefits of using the cloud. Then you have this component called Azure Repose. So here in this Azure Repose, this will, as I mentioned previously also, so this service has provides you standard Git service, works like standard Git service, and works as distributed source control. Azure Repose is going to support branching strategy as well, and access to the repositories are managed by Azure Active Directory or Azure AD. So therefore, the source code access management becomes fast and easy, because you can control it with the help of Azure AD. On top of that, your Azure Repose also support all the Git clients and all IDs, all editors, so you can easily integrate with that. And you can also do effective Git code review. You can raise the pull requests and so on. Now, with the support of branching strategy, you can manage the code after successful build and passing all the test case to maintain high code quality. So these are certain benefits that you get by using the Azure Repos. And again, it is very well integrated with Azure pipelines. Okay, let me pick up a question here from Preeti. What is public and private sources? Okay, again, as I mentioned, so maybe you might, so again, let's take example. For example, let's say if you are developing a Java project and you are using Maven Central for picking up your dependencies, whatever you might need. So that is an example of a public repository. Similarly, there might be certain libraries which are not available publicly, in the sense that they are not available in, maybe let's say, Maven repository, but then certain libraries could be there with some specific organizations who have developed those libraries, or maybe there are some in-house libraries also which you have kept in your maybe some private server. Not necessarily you are maintaining that server as an artifact server, but somewhere some teams have maintained some artifacts. So instead of going in this way, the Azure artifacts can provide you a centralized and distributed system component, wherein your organization may decide to place all the well-tested and verified libraries and dependencies, so that every project team can pick up their desired libraries from that centralized location, that single location. So it works like a single point of truth. So with private and public repositories, we mean these different sources from where traditionally you will be picking up the libraries. So in case of .NET, that could be NuGet. In case of Node, it could be NPM. In case of Java, it could be Maven. Right. So these are the examples of your public and private repositories. Once you go ahead with Azure artifacts, you can get kind of download all these public or private repositories at one centralized location within your organization and make them accessible through Azure artifacts. And again, while doing that, you can apply all the necessary permissions with the help of Azure AD. So that's very secure. I hope that answers the query. Great. Talking about Azure Pipelines, which is, as mentioned previously, which will help you to automate right from build to release process. So it is a cloud-based, a cloud-hosted pipelines for fast CI and CD. Now, what is CI and CD here? These are the two terms: continuous integration and continuous. Sometimes people say continuous delivery. Some people say continuous deployment. So fine, let's not get into that argument. There is a very slight difference between delivery and deployment. So continuous deployment will involve some kind of manual intervention before actually deploying the software to some environment, whereas continuous delivery, right from the code commit to the delivery to any environment, it will be totally automated. No human intervention will be there in continuous delivery. So anyways, so CI, continuous integration, CD, whatever process you might be following with a manual intervention or without any manual intervention, depending on that, the definition will change. Great. So what is CI specifically? Continuous integration. So that is the part where you are committing the code, and as soon as you are committing the code, there is a trigger which takes it to the build phase. The automated testing is done. I mean, the unit tests that you might have written or any other integration tests. So they will be run automatically by your build server. Now, in this case, that can be taken care by your Azure pipelines. So in conventional strategies or conventional architecture, that would be some kind of build server, some kind of CI servers. So for example, Jenkins is a very good example for that. So they will take care of making sure that as soon as you commit the code, the build servers or the Jenkins kind of tools, they will pick up your code, automatically execute the test runs on that, the tests that you might have created, to ensure that the integrity of the code has been maintained. The best practices for your code, for writing a code, have been followed. This could be, maybe sometimes we have, as a developer, we have a tendency of just leaving some to-do kind of comments. So which is not a good practice from clean code perspective. So your build tools can actually look into that also. So some static best practices in your code can be taken care by build servers. So again, that thing can be taken care by Azure Pipelines when you are using Azure Pipelines. It can help you to maintain the release changes continuously from any source control to any cloud. Then you can make use of YAML files, which are very useful in writing build and release definitions. So when we are mentioning YAML file, here's the indication is towards declarative way of providing the build and release definitions or the configurations. Again, there are various components like the build, release, library, task groups, deployment groups. So all these components can be taken together and they can work in sync with each other to ensure the build to release process is successfully and smoothly achieved. And then you have you can have Azure Pipelines as advanced workflows to monitor any CI/CD stages. So that is how your Azure Pipelines works. Great. And again, you can connect it to any source control, maybe like GitHub. So once you do that, the pipelines can release changes continuously to any cloud. So not just Azure, but any cloud. Great. Then we have Azure Test Plans. Now this service essentially helps you to do the automated and manual testing. Now this is other than the unit testing part, which can be taken care by builds servers or your CI tools. Here we are talking of the whole testing universe out there. I may not even know the names of those many different types of tests which are there. So be it an integration test, be it some kind of uh, load testing and other such kind of testing. So performance testing. So all these tests, pen tests. So all these tests can be achieved with the help of this Azure test plans. It can help you to do automated and manual testing both. Now, these test results are beneficial to record software bugs and defects, as we know, and automated tests will typically execute in a pipeline. So if you opt for the automated test, you don't even need any kind of manual intervention there. And stakeholders' feedback can be captured in the work items. So this kind of allows you to execute, track, and automate the testing of your application in a very well organized manner. So with all these five components, with this very basic understanding of these five components, what are the benefits of using Azure DevOps? So Azure DevOps allows the users to develop, deploy, and monitor code without opening multiple interfaces. And you can manage all of this from one single view and bring ease to the customers. Now, this is what you will see in the demo very soon. And continuous, so it is again going to support the CI/CD automation, automated testing. It can work with any platform, any language, supports so many languages out there. And it also provides you app insights wherein you can go ahead and look at like what actually is being done, or are there any kind of deviations, are there any things that need to be corrected. So this app insight provides the application performance management and instant analytics, with the help of which you can monitor the infrastructure health with Azure Log Analytics and Azure Monitor. So the last phase, if you remember from a typical life cycle, which was monitoring. So that is what you can get with the app insights also. Great. So with that said, I have introduced a very fundamentals, very basic of Azure DevOps to you. Hope that would have made some sense. I have one question from Preeti. Please explain YAML files. So YAML is I'm not sure if you know JSON or not. You can quickly put a yes or a no on the chat if you know JSON, JSON or XML. It's Preeti, yeah, Preeti. So Preeti, yes, JSON, you know JSON, great. So just like JSON has its, JSON is basically a data model, right? The way you are going to write certain information in the form of key pairs. So similarly, you can create a structure kind of script or kind of a configuration using YAML syntax. So YAML format is pretty much the purpose pretty much is what the purpose JSON has. So it has its own way of writing certain information. So that is the YAML file. Bottom line is that be it JSON, be it XML, be it YAML, all of them help you with a declarative style of providing the useful, relevant information. So generally, your configuration files, which you need to put outside the code, you can go ahead and, depending on what is supported or what you are comfortable with, you can go ahead and use YAML, JSON, or XML. I hope that answers the query. Yeah, like you do with the web services, absolutely. Great. So with that said, I hope this brief introduction to the DevOps, Azure DevOps and its components might have made some sense to all. And let me now request Disha to please go ahead and
Thank you, Kuldeep.
Yep.
Thank you so much. You can stop sharing your screen and I will start sharing my screen.
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome again to our session. And in this demonstration, what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you how you can set up a very simple and a sample AWS.NET project using Azure DevOps Starter. And once we done that, we are going to configure the entire application, the entire pipeline using the Azure DevOps. So without getting delay, we are already running out of the time, and I really appreciate you being staying here. So let's get started with that. And I'm going to share my screen. Please, all of you, please confirm if you are able to see my screen. Okay, I'm sharing it now. Just give me a minute. Is my screen visible to you? I just need a confirmation. Okay. Thank you, Ram. Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much. So without wasting our time, let's get started. So guys, this is our Azure portal, which you might be aware of very well. So what I will do quickly, I will go and create a sample application, ASP.NET application using the DevOps Starter. So once you click here, okay, it will take you in the dashboard, which will allow you to create a new project. So it will take couple of minutes only to create. I'm going to use a kind of a step-by process, which will help me to create a .NET application. So this is the very first point where I'm selecting a .NET web application, selecting the framework, which will be my ASP.NET Core or .NET, whatever I want to. I will go for the ASP.NET Core. We'll select a service. I want to use a Windows web application. And guys, please do not worry about that. It is just a simple process where I really want to create an application, which I will use to show you guys that how a automated pipeline perform and work. Okay, so in the last and the fourth step, it will see and will asking me that which repository you really want to subscribe and use for. Guys, please note that with Microsoft Azure portal and using DevOps Starter, it will create a repo and a pipeline in a GitHub account. So here, it will ask your permission to authorize it. So I have, since I have been using this since long, I'm already will get a pop-up just to show that where I really want to go. So it will take me to inside my repository, which I have been using with the name of Disha Kamra. And here, let me name it as a sample application only. Okay, with the same name of, okay, let's make it a little different here. So it's checking whether the name is available. So it is available. And I'm going to select the location by default as it's South Central US. And when I click on this, you will see how quickly it will create an application and start creating the resources. So what this is doing, this is basically setting up a sample application within our Azure DevOps Starter. And the moment you will see a dashboard, it will take you back in the dashboard where you will see the deployment is in now progress. Okay, and if I go and click on here, it will show that what are the process are enabling here. While this process is in place and taking care of where it is going for a deployment, if I go inside the resources, it will take me to a dashboard of my sample application demo. I have to again authorize this, my GitHub repository, to show the CI/CD pipeline. It will show you the entire GitHub flow, workflow. You will able to see that it has started the job of build. Okay, so while this is in progress and being taken care of, let me take you to the Azure DevOps portal as well, so that there, while this is running and getting built and deployment and getting the environment ready, in a meantime I will show you that within Azure DevOps environment how you can create a pipeline there. Now you will say, okay, Disha, this pipeline is already available under the GitHub workflow. Why you are going and creating other pipeline using the Azure DevOps? Yes, that's the beauty, because there we are going to manage the entire thing, as I already explained by Amanpreet in his previous slides, that what is the role of a pipeline, what are the repos and other components which are available. Okay, so let me take you through. Give me a minute. So hope my screen is visible to you. And here, this is my Azure DevOps. This is my Azure DevOps, which already holding some of the projects here, some of the production environment, some of the. So what I will do, I will select this decode demo project. Okay, inside that project, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new pipeline. And to create so, once I'm inside the project, I have to, on my left hand side, you will able to see all the components which are available here. So I will go and select the pipeline. Inside the pipeline, I will go and create a new pipeline. Now it will say, okay, where is your code? From where you want to pick up the code? Now I know that my code is somewhere available under the GitHub. So what I will do, remember guys, this here we have already our GitHub workflow available for the sample application, where already some of the jobs are in progress and ongoing. So which means I have my code already ready while the deployment is taking place. So I will go back in my pipeline. Where is my code? My code is available under GitHub. I will select that. As Amanpreet was explaining, it can be any source. Uh, any source can be picked up. So we are picking up a GitHub. Now you will able to see that here I am 3 minutes ago, there is one sample application which was provided by the DevOps. The project which I had created here under this category, it is available. And now I'm going to select this repository. So it is validating that permission. I just need to pass on my login credential to confirm the password. Okay, something went wrong. I'm sorry, guys. Let me quickly check. Okay, I'm selecting this again. Okay, give me a minute, guys. I'm sorry for this. It should take me to the GitHub. Okay, yeah, here it is. So here I'm approving it. Okay, so the selected repository is allowed to use the following two. This one is the selected one. I'm approving and installing it. It will again ask for a credential for my, because I'm using a GitHub account which is using my personal email ID, while this is my official one. So now you will see it will configuring my pipeline. Now I have to select which particular environment you want to use. Since I have created a ASP.NET project, I'm going to select a ASP.NET. And here, Preeti, this will answer. It will automatically generate this. This will generate an YAML file, which will provide automatically. Everything is available here. What are the build? Where are the solution? What kind of a platform need to be taken care? Why? Because here in this sample application, the build deployment, everything, which is still it's now function of creating one environment here, which will be automatically move on here and with the help of this YAML file. So I will save and run this environment, and I will name it the command set up the CI with Azure Pipeline and save and run it. So this is creating a pipeline here. Okay. Now, once this pipeline is available, configure, it will trigger me, it will show me that my job is in a queue. So if you go and click on this job, you will see that it has initiated the process, it is running, it is preparing the environment and creating it. While this is taking some time, okay, it will initiate, it will start build, the pipeline will run all the relevant steps which is required to install the tool, the command, vs build, test, and everything. Let me take you back to my sample application, okay, where what is there, it is already available now. Everything has been completed. You are able to see there is no such error come up. However, if I refresh it, it should also show me my application endpoint. So when I click here, it will show my application is up and running. That's why I'm able to see the following page here. Okay. While this is available, each one of these jobs have their own GitHub repository available with all the details, all the actions which are taken care in the past. And now, while we are here inside the build, okay, let me also, and while the let's wait for a few seconds to complete this so that I can show you the automation of CI and CD in this pipeline. Whatever code level changes I'm going to do over here on my code, it will automatically update the comments and everything on this pipeline as well, because this is integrated with my sample application. Okay. And on the top of that, it will also going to run and build the deployment based on the changes notice. So it is almost done. It is finishing and it is taken care of. So while this is finishing, I will take you back here in the pipeline, which is recently created. See, I have received a notification as well that my build is successful using the Azure DevOps, which I'm using here right now. So what I will do, so this is what we have done. We have created a sample application. We have configured our Azure DevOps with a pipeline. Now I'm going to commit a code changes and it will automatically execute the pipeline. Now going back here, I will open the code here. Okay, let me go back to the sample application. Inside my application, I'm not going to do any code level changes, whereas I'm going to put a simple comment here just to check that everything is working and functional and fine here. Okay, so inside this, I'm just doing going under edit, just will do a comment level changes here. Just putting a comment here by Disha on 19th of May. Nothing much. And I'm committing the changes. The moment it is saved, it maintain a history. You will able to see here as well. If you refresh, you will able to see it automatically start a build here, and same will go over here as well. If you go under the pipeline and see the update startup CS, just now it has started the build again. See, the last one was done by me some 4 minutes ago, but the moment it has sensed a change there in a code level, it has started a build automatically within 19 or couple of seconds itself, the moment I did my changes here. Okay, so This was all about a very quick demonstration to show you how our CI/CD pipeline automation work with the help of Microsoft Azure portal and DevOps portal. Aman, Kuldeep, if you can please share your screen, going back to the slides.
Yes, Disha, sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for this beautiful demo. Okay, so dear participants, I hope whatever we have covered in such a short while would be a little bit of use to all of you at least. In case you have any more queries, any more questions, please feel free to contact us on these details that are right now on your screen. Other than that, let me also put this on the chat. So here are the website and the email address which you can use to get in touch with us. You can also follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and you can subscribe to our YouTube channels. And in any case, you have any doubts, any queries, or you want to kind of get some more information, please feel free to talk to us, get in touch with us on our email ID or our LinkedIn profile. With that said, thank you so much. So unless and until you have any maybe more further questions, or Disha, if you have anything else to share.
Yeah. Thank you, Kuldeep. Thank you all. Thank you so much. We really appreciate your participation in our session. Please write back to us if you have any query or any other session you are looking forward from us. And we really appreciate. Thank you. Thank you, Ram. Thank you for the feedback. Thank you. We appreciate you enjoyed the session. Thank you, Preeti. Thank you for your.
Sorry, I want to say sorry from both Disha and my side. We have been pronouncing your name very incorrectly, Prerit. I'm really sorry.
Yeah, appreciate.
It was coming very small on my screen, so I could not really read it um, very correctly. And really apologies. Please accept that. So Prerit, yes, these recordings will be available very soon, and that will be shared with you. And participants, you can please feel free to maybe send us a smiley on the chat window if you liked it, or maybe a crying face if it was not very fruitful for you. So that will kind of give us some impression, like if it was really good, or we can come up with some other session which could be more informative.
Yeah, we have made the chat open for everybody. Sorry for making this session more in a controlled way. Means we try our level best to cover almost everything in 45 minutes, but we still took some 20-minute extra. And thank you, Virendra. Thank you for your feedback. We are looking forward for your participation on upcoming other session as well. Any feedback, anything you would like to share, please follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And this recording will be made available and will be shared on LinkedIn as well. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you, Kuldeep.